Ready to roll? All right, call the meeting to order. Jen, do roll call.
Commissioner Corbin,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Abraham,
Here.
Commissioner Wagner, Mayor Lindsay.
Here. Okay. You have attached in that the minutes of the May 27th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 27th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have before you the agenda for tonight's meeting. Any additions, corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Here we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appearances, acknowledgements, and correspondence. Acknowledge a letter from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System. Ryan, do you have something you'd like to speak to that?
I thought I'd give just kind of a really brief overview of what the CRS, Community Rating System Program is. The National Flood Insurance Community Rating System can probably best be described as an incentive program. It recognizes and encourages community management activities that are above the minimum National Flood Insurance Program standards. It's a voluntary program through the Insurance Services Office in FEMA. In fact, prior to May 1st, there was only one community in the state that was a CRS rated community, and that was Rapid City. Really, the goal of CRS, as described to me by the ISO, is to reduce flood damage to insurable properties through sound management and through educating the community about flood zones. And those are the two biggest driving forces behind this. And they feel through strengthening and supporting the insurance aspects of the National Flood Insurance Program through these activities, it gives better data collection through elevation certificate and such like that. And then those can then be used by the insurance side for rating purposes. And it also gives the property owner a good idea of what their real hazard is. It also encourages a comprehensive approach to floodplain management. And as a result, flood insurance premium rates are discounted to reflect the reduced flood risk resulting from the community's actions. These aren't physical changes, although they could be, but it's more making sure that the community is taking proactive approaches rather than reactive. In our case, we were able to get to a level 8, which gives, I think Chad had sent you a couple of attachments. It gives us a premium discount for properties in the under flood zone of 10%. And so, on average, in the special flood hazard area, that's $114 per policy. So, it gives the community roughly $7,100 in savings community-wide. In order to apply for the CRS, the community must be in good standing with the National Flood Insurance Program, and that included a visit from FEMA and ISO, where they came and looked through our files and kind of quizzed me on flood management. That went really well. Once we had that, we had formal approval to then apply. From there, the community can use the CRS manual to initiate activities. There's a number of activities and a number of series, I guess you'd say. There's a 300 series, which is toward the map providing elevation certificate and outreach projects to our community. And then from there, the series kind of ramp up in complexity. And the 600 series is talking about levees and physical changes. A lot of the activities that we were able to implement right away here, we were already doing, or activities that have taken place, such as buyouts in the 1993 flood. We really used those for to get points. And Chad and I have discussed this, at great detail, and we think that we have more activities that we can focus on in the next year or two, and hopefully move up that ladder continuously.
Now, the one thing in that, people at home hearing this, it does depend on what part of town you're in and what part of the flood zone, because there may be some areas in that don't qualify for the 10% discount. So you'd have to check to see to make sure you're within that 100-year flood zone, correct?
Yeah, if you're in the 500-year flood zone or have a preferred risk policy, as it's called,
Mhm.
you're out of the special.
You're already discounted.
You're already discounted.
You're already discounted, right? So if they have any questions in that, they need to stop in and check to see which part of the flood zone they're in.
Mayor,
And also, the insurance companies will do this automatically, right, correct?
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay,
may I, Mayor?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's correct. Basically, this will automatically go into place,
Mhm.
and I think it's a great program. I just wanted to give credit to Ryan. It was one of his goals as a very competent individual, but particularly in this case, floodplain administrator. He serves as that for the city. He had set this was one of his personnel goals, and he did this, and people are receiving direct benefit of a credit of over $7,000 in the city because of it. And as you could see, not many communities were doing this, and so it's very much a leadership type activity that Madison has taken and Ryan has taken. So I would like to commend him and his effort in this. It's very good. So.
Very good, very good. So, any questions? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we need a motion to acknowledge?
Please.
Okay.
I move to acknowledge
Okay.
item number one, the letter from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security regarding the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Acknowledge retail on-sale liquor license transfer application from Jankman LLC to Madison Brewing Company LLC and set a date of hearing. And do you want to speak to it at all, or?
Unless you have any questions.
Okay.
Why do you want to own a bar?
I was bored, I had a lot of free time. Had to fill up my Monday nights.
I'd make a motion to acknowledge the retail on-sale liquor license transfer application from Yankman LLC to Madison Brewing Company and set date and time of hearing at June 16th at 5:35.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Get a thorough
Hey.
review on that particular.
You are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Oh, that's fine.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
level one there.
may I ask that item 2 in old business be heard before item 1, as there's no parties present for item 1, but the airport manager
Sure.
and partner are here for item number 2, and they could.
Very good. So seeing no old business, we move to new business. Number 2, authorize the mayor to sign the Wildlife Hazard Management Plan Agreement for the Madison Municipal Airport, and this is under recommendation of KLJ. And questions or comments, or, go ahead.
Well, I haven't met the two new commissioners yet, but, I'll just catch you up to speed. You know, about 5 years ago, we decided to put a parallel taxiway into our runway. And everything was going good till about a year and a half ago when they decided that because of the airliner that crashed in the Hudson, we should not farm the land. Now, how you get from
New York.
running into a whole bunch of geese around the Hudson Bay to Madison, South Dakota, and corn and beans, but we got there. So we come to a compromise because it was gonna be a financial, we just couldn't do it. We get $38,000 from renting land, but it was gonna cost us $16,000 to mow it every time. Anyway, so we come to a compromise, we get to put alfalfa in it for 5 years. And alfalfa, 4 or 5 years you have to rotate it anyway. So we're confident that by the time the 4 or 5 years goes away, that we will most likely be able to go back to our farming practices. Anyway, so we come to the point now where we had to even on part of this compromise, part of the deal is we go out and we drive and we inspect the airport, make sure there's no birds on the airport, and if they are, we have a depredation permit. We're supposed to try to chase them off, and if they won't leave nicely, we kill them. So that's part of all what we're doing now. So we're, we'll have a small net loss, from putting in alfalfa, but it's pretty minor compared to what, otherwise
What it would've
we
been.
just wouldn't have done the project, we just didn't.
And I just came back from Bozeman here this weekend, and we drove by 2 FAA airports that had cropping on both sides of the runways, and my wife says, they can do it, why can't we?
Yeah,
You
but
know?
Kansas City owns, and they're proud of the fact that the Kansas City International owns a couple thousand acres that they farm.
Yeah,
That's not gonna go away.
Mhm.
So when we got into it, but to save face for everybody,
Mhm.
we come up with a compromise and, but yeah, it was, it was pretty good for a while. And back and forth almost weekly, trying to get this thing solved, so.
And it makes no sense with the proximity of the crop to the end of the airport, to the
Right.
north end, versus the sides that were farmed by us. We can't use that anymore, but
Right.
they can't control the guy to the north.
Yeah,
So
or the
it's-
wetlands to the west,
yeah.
or to
Well,
the east.
Lots of reasons that does,
One of the first
makes
things
no
they wanted
sense.
to do is for us to pay for draining all sloughs within a 3-mile radius of the airport.
Well, wasn't it 5 to start with?
Yeah,
And then
5.
And then they came
Five,
down,
and then
Lake Madison.
Included in that.
And then it
So
came down to
bad
3.
for us.
Then it came down to 3, and then it came down to, oh, well, within inside your fence.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, if we'd have put a big hose in Lake Madison, so we gotta drain that.
yeah,
That's right, especially that south end.
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think we've come to a pretty good compromise and of course, the administration will change, it's already started changing in that office in Bismarck, so.
I thought it was interesting when we asked the question about tiling. Well, no, you can't do that. You put
Yeah.
water on somebody else.
Yeah,
But if you fill it in, the water's gonna stay there. Oh, yeah, it'll go into the ground.
Yeah.
They weren't here yesterday, were they?
no,
So.
so,
Questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a wildlife hazard management plan agreement for Madison Municipal Airport as per KLJ.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Morris and Brenda.
see ya.
Okay. Appeals for sidewalk variances, sidewalk improvement, 2014. And in your minutes in that, or in your packet, and that was the response and the results of the sidewalk committee meeting. Any discussion?
I can go over a few things, if that's all right.
Okay.
Your Honor. Sorry. Trying to get to the minutes. The minutes from the sidewalk committee for, oh, that's airport court, I apologize. For the sidewalk committee, they met May 28th at 5:15 to consider 2 appeals for a variance to Resolution 2684 passed by the City Commission in August of 2008. It had to do with essentially establishing some standards for sidewalk installations so that they're somewhat uniform, as there hadn't been any standards of this sort prior to that. And so the parties here are a part of the assessment project that the commission took the sidewalk committee's recommendation in late last year to recommend a sidewalk be installed up Roosevelt Avenue. And the parties wanted to install their sidewalk closer than the minimum typically reserved per the resolution, the aforementioned resolution, which is 5 feet. This proposal is for 3 feet from the back of the curb. And so it would be closer. There was a good discussion, and that was, we tried to attempt to capture that in the minutes from the sidewalk committee meeting. There good discussion of some of the history of this, of why these standards are set forth, the variance procedure and such. But I'll say to you now too that a big reason for the 5-foot setback is for snow removal purposes and to provide a place to store snow and such. After much discussion of various options, the sidewalk committee did did make a motion to approve the variance as requested with 3 feet on a split vote, but it did carry 3-2. I'll just leave it at that. I did provide a aerial photo with a sketch to show some information there, additional information, so. I think the options are to, obviously, to accept the sidewalk committee's recommendation, to grant the variance at 3 feet, as was requested, or I think this group could modify and approve it at anywhere between 3 feet and the required 5 feet, or reject the request and force that to be put in at 5 feet. I think those are the options ultimately that you have. And I don't know, Fred, do you have any questions or thoughts from a snow removal perspective? Or I guess your street foreman is here to,
I think the best compromise, I mean, short of saying, okay, we're gonna stick with the 5 foot that was basically outlined in this, I'd have to disagree with the sidewalk recommendation, the committee's recommendation of 3 foot. At best, I would go 4 foot, give us some room to actually do a snow rollback. 3 foot, we're gonna continue to cover that every time we do snow. Calls are gonna come in, the fact that we covered the sidewalk. As Chad said, that some of the reasoning that we had at 5 foot gives us a buffer between the edge of the curb and the sidewalk itself, where we can actually lay that snow in here. And we'd like to retain as much of that as we can, but in the, to compromise a little bit, I would say 4 would be the minimum that I'd like to see. Certainly not 3 foot.
Jeremiah, you were at that meeting. Do you have any comments?
I was a little surprised they approved it at 3, but it was a 2-3 vote. Some of the folk were talking about maybe going at 4 feet, because there didn't appear to be a hardship to them at 4 feet. But I guess the committee approved it at 3.
one of the most significant obstructions would be, I would say, on the Fegan, there's what I would refer to as the south tree there. If it was installed at a 5-foot setback, the west edge of that sidewalk, it would be, a person would hit a limb at 5 feet tall. There's a large limb, probably about 8 inches in diameter, sticking out that. If it was granted at 3 foot, that limb is sloped up, it's about 7 feet high. So I would assume if it was revised to 4 feet, if this group did choose to revise it, the city commission to 4 feet, it would be about 6 feet high clearance under that particular limb. So that's probably one of the most significant, I guess you could call it a hardship, where either the Fegans may want to consider cutting that limb off, or a standard practice for the per the resolution that assigned this requirement is that the costs are the same. So if they didn't want to go through the cost of doing that, the city has done things like built retaining walls, removed excess dirt, cut limbs, cut down trees and things like that as well. But it may be able to stay at 4 feet, but it would probably have to come down if it was all the way at a 5-foot setback.
Is there anything about this, and I'd like a little more time with this, to be honest with you, another week to look at it. Now, unless there's some reason that we really need to move on that, I'd like to see us just take another week on this. We could look at some of the, as Chad said, maybe take a look at some of the properties and think about this a little, unless there's, that's you as a committee member, or you think we need to, it's pretty well set. It just seems to me like I'd like to have a week to think about this. David, you look like you wanted to say something to me.
I think that procedurally, you could move to table this for 1 week. It'll obviously have to go back on the agenda as the appeals, just as it was this week, but you could do it procedurally.
Have to put it back on the
It
agenda.
needs to just go back on the agenda exactly as it is tonight, just
Yeah,
because I
just
want to
the
make
same
sure
as it
there's notice that these appeals are being heard.
Okay.
But I'm directing that more to Chad and Jen. I'm telling you procedurally, you could move to table it 1 week if you chose.
I would think that might be very prudent. We did advise those landowners that this meeting was going to happen tonight, where the commission makes the final, and that they are not here. That would also give us an opportunity to, again, remind them that this would be back, should it come back, and then they could certainly talk to the issue before you as well.
And I would want them both re-notified.
Right. we
I
would
was gonna say,
definitely-
had they been notified at all on the 3-2 vote on here, or?
Yeah,
no?
they were both at the meeting. They,
Okay.
both landowners were at the meeting.
So I guess my thought is here is they may be of the feeling that it was passed. So it might not be such a bad thing to, especially if there's feelings on the commission here to, to move it from 3 to 4. It may be a good idea too. And then also, with due respect to the sidewalk committee,
Right.
That's
So-
exactly my thinking. Two things, one, this is people's property, I respect that, and two is the sidewalk committee obviously had some, I don't want to be reversing things that they gave their time to make decisions on, unless we have good cause for it. So I'd like to have another week to think about this.
Okay, you want to make that a
I'd
motion?
like to I'd like to move that we table this agenda item for 1 week. Thank you.
Do I need a second?
Do we have a second? Further discussion?
I think we're ready to approve the, as presented, or consider the 4-foot setback. I guess it's been through it. These people have showed up and done they're probably of the opinion that when the sidewalk committee passed it at 3 feet, that they were done. I guess if they're ready to go, I don't see a reason to delay it any longer.
So then you should note that the motion died for lack of a second.
Lack of second?
And while I agree with you, for the most part, as a new commissioner, I still have some information. I spent some time with Chad this afternoon on this. He was helpful, but I still have some things that I'd like to process. So that's why I'd like it delayed.
Bob, as long as you're here, is 4 foot better for the snow? Is that adequate room?
Yeah, but I'm glad to see that city is not gonna put any more sidewalks right behind the curb, like down by American Family and up on North Prairie,
Prostrala?
because, and even that one on 9th Street,
Casanova's?
huh?
Up by Casanova's?
Yeah. It's, when you get a lot of snow, you gotta keep your momentum up, or otherwise it sets in front of your
Blade.
plow, and you can't move it.
Right.
And it's same way coming down Prairie, by Maraegers and stuff, we can fill their sidewalks in, and we do feel bad when they've already been out and scooped it once, and we come by with another, cause that's emergency snow route, and if we happen to get another 2-3 inches after we plow the first time, we come by and plow them back in, it does get a little frustrating. But nothing you can do about it, cause there's certain areas that you can't. So,
Do we have a subsequent motion?
I would move to approve the appeal by changing it to 4 feet setback from the curb. Is that sufficient?
Motion should read that it's modified.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Discussion.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Your Honor, I just wanted to note, Jeremiah was at the meeting, and I did mention, I feel a little bad that they're not here, but I did mention that, this is gonna come back to the commission on Monday, and that they will make the final decision, and they could, go along with the recommendation or not, and so, do you recall that as well?
Yeah, you made it
I thought I made
very
it.
clear to them that it'd be coming in front of the commission and it might change. And we've had a pretty good discussion about how snow removal and the setback that's a big factor. And they made it seem like snow removal wasn't a big thing to them, but as I go around town, I think there's a high correlation to sidewalks that don't get cleaned off as they get closer to the street. And and frankly, for myself, it's more difficult to, mine is plenty far away from the street, and there's times when it's hard to clear off, so I can only imagine, I don't think 3 feet's far enough, so.
Okay, I did want to make sure that
Mhm.
I was recalling correctly, because I think I did, but.
He did.
So are we asking, is your motion indicate that we're asking a 4 foot?
Yes.
4 foot
Yeah.
split.
And on which property, on all these properties that we?
Just the
both of
two,
those.
the
Those
two
two-
appealed
Those
properties.
two appeals?
The two that wanted it at 3, will give them 4 instead of 5.
It was nice of them to come in together to keep that block a straight run of sidewalk.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion okay, we have, note the abstention, or not abstention, the nay.
Whoever.
Yeah.
Dissent.
Ready to roll, Jen? Number 3, bid 826, reject all bids. Fred, do you want to brief us on this?
We actually brought this before you, last week, to actually declare that forklift surplus and actually get it out for bids a couple weeks ago. Only problem was, as we went back to look at it, we declared the wrong one.
Wrong one.
So we would ask that you would reject all bids. I think we received one on that, and that's when we kind of noticed that we actually had the wrong, that was the one we just bought. I don't particularly want to turn around and sell that as surplus right now. So I'd ask that you reject that bid and move forward from there.
So you want a motion on bid number 826 to reject all bids?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Declare as surplus property the 1985 Caterpillar forklift.
This would be the correct forklift.
This would be the correct forklift. Okay.
That we meant to be the first one.
I'd make a motion to declare as surplus the 1985 Caterpillar forklift and appoint as appraisers Tom Helke, Fred Snodderly, and myself.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 5, bid number 827. No bids were received for the 1996 vertical shaft, hollow shaft motors. And these are the ones from the water treatment plant. And they were previously appraised, and we had no bids received. So the correct step then is to have them reappraised, and then they have, and then we can part with them as surplus for 90% of the reappraisal. Am I correct on that?
If that's what you want to do, I guess I wasn't under the assumption that that's what we were ready to do tonight. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, we need
Okay,
to
Fred?
actually, we need to
Okay.
actually reappraise those and lower that significantly and just, I mean, what's the step to actually, where we can declare them surplus and then sell them as whatever?
If no
Well,
bids,
if we need to.
if no bids are received, the governing board may have the surplus property reappraised or may within 12 months thereafter sell the property at private sale for not less than 90% of the appraised value without further publication or appraisals.
What that's saying in regular human terms is you don't necessarily have to reappraise it. But if you go sell it on private sale in the next 12 months, it has to be for 90% of the original appraised value.
And that was the issue that we have right here and received no bids.
Right, now if you want to reappraise it, you certainly can. That's the other option. That's an or in that language, and so you have two options. You can
Right.
reappraise it, or you can sell it at private sale for 90% of the current appraisal.
And this isn't something that we have to make as a motion. We can just acknowledge what's here and then, or do we have to make it a motion to have them reappraised?
You should make a motion to have them reappraised, if
Okay.
that's the choice of this committee.
What are your thoughts, Fred?
May I just ask a question?
Hmm?
If this would have been bid on, there's no, right now, it didn't have to be within 90% of the appraisal. Is there any reason to believe that it's reappraised, we would all of a sudden have some bidders? So, I mean, it would.
No, because that bid wasn't public knowledge anyway. It didn't go out with the, I mean, what, the
appraisal
appraisal
wasn't.
didn't go with the bid.
Right, nobody
Right.
bid on it.
Nobody wants them,
Nobody wants it.
so they have no value.
But now you're limited on just
So do
giving
we
them on a private
appraise them
sale.
at zero and sell them for scrap?
Basically scrap value, and that's what I was wondering, is what's the legal process to do that?
To facilitate getting rid of these things more easily, I would suggest that you consider reappraising, because if the reappraisal is much lower, it's simply much easier to dispose of.
Okay. So we need a motion to have the 96 vertical shaft motors reappraised.
That's right.
Do we need to do anything with the lack of bids, though?
No.
No, there's
It should
nothing there.
just be noted in the minutes that there were.
I just, that's why it's on here, I just wanted it noted in the minutes that we followed up on it.
So I have them reappraised for surplus. And I can't make a motion, so it's gotta come from somebody else.
Yep. I would make,
Are we going appraisers again then?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry for the confusion.
Okay.
I didn't know where we're going here. Okay,
I would make a motion to reappraise the 1996 vertical hollow shaft motors and appoint Fred, Tom, and myself as appraisers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You also have attached some personnel adjustments. Are there any comments, questions, or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no other announcements or other business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.